Hello, you're watching UZREPORT.NEWS and I'm Bahram Gaffarov. Uzbekistan Airways has temporarily suspended flights to Japan, Italy, Iran and Afghanistan on March 1st as coronavirus outbreak continues to spread in these countries. The last flight from Seoul, with 231 people on board, arrived on February 29th. The staff of Sanitary and Epidemiology Control of Uzbekistan had inspected each passenger as witnessed by UZREPORT crew. Relatives of passengers, as a preventive measure, were recommended to stay at home. All passengers are now placed on 14-day quarantine. In the meantime, China had 202 new confirmed cases of coronavirus, 42 new deaths and 141 new suspected cases reported on Sunday from 31 provincial-level regions and the Xinjiang Production and Construction Corps, the National Health Commission said on Monday.
According to the Commission, all the new deaths were reported in central China's Hubei province, the epicenter of the outbreak. And of the new confirmed cases, only 6 are outside Hubei. As of 12 a.m. Sunday, there still existed 32,652 confirmed cases, 7,110 of whom were in serious conditions. A total of 44,462 patients had been discharged from hospital after recovery, and 2,912 had died of the disease. According to the latest data by worldmeters.info, as of March 2nd, 89,074 people have been infected. The death toll has surpassed 3,000, and roughly half of the infected have found a way to recover.
The United States and the Taliban inked a peace deal in Doha on Saturday that calls for the full withdrawal of American troops from Afghanistan within 14 months, marking a turning point in an 18-year war that cost tens of thousands of lives.
Afghan President Muhammad Ashraf Ghani has turned down the Taliban demand for the release of 5,000 detainees within 10 days, saying no precondition is acceptable for initiating intra-Afghan talks at a press conference held on Sunday. According to President Ghani, the release of the Taliban detainees is within the authority of the government of Afghanistan and not with the United States. Meanwhile, Ghani noted that his government would send a delegation to Doha to discuss the issue before March 10th. According to Afghanistan's constitution, the final decision in this regard goes to the Parliament of Afghanistan or goes to referendum. Ghani added that his government would spare no effort to ensure the restoration of lasting peace in Afghanistan and safeguard all the achievements and values, including the rights of women, achieved over the past 19 years. The United States and allies would proportionally reduce their military strength in Afghanistan if the Taliban complies with the agreement and reduces violence to the level of ceasefire. Afghan President also expressed hope that the so-called reduction in violence turns into ceasefire across the country to pave the way for returning viable peace in Afghanistan.
On February 29th, Uzbekistan's delegation headed by Minister of Foreign Affairs Abdulaziz Kamilov arrived in Doha. Uzbek Foreign Minister met with the leader of the Taliban's political office in Qatar and the special representatives of the United States and Federal Republic of Germany to Afghanistan.
The parties discussed the current situation in Afghanistan and the efforts of all parties to launch the peace process in the country as soon as possible. The U.S. representative to Afghanistan, Zalmay Khalilzad, noted that Uzbekistan, under the leadership of Uzbek President Shavkat Mirziyoyev, is implementing a new policy on Afghanistan based on the principles of friendship and mutual understanding. The special representative of the Federal Republic of Germany, Markus Potzel, highly appreciated the steps taken by the head of Uzbekistan to provide practical assistance in the implementation of various economic projects in Afghanistan. And the leader of the Taliban's political office, Mullah Baradar Akhund, emphasized that Uzbekistan has always been and remains the most reliable friend of the Afghan people despite a difficult past. The importance of continuing cooperation with Uzbekistan on the implementation of various projects in Afghanistan that are aimed at restoring the country's national economy was highlighted. The signing of the historic agreement between the United States and the Taliban has been long awaited. It is expected that over the next 14 months, the U.S. troops will be withdrawn from Afghanistan, which will put an end to the 18-year war.
We want very much to be optimistic first. And secondly, of course, we welcome this peace process, the beginning of peace process. Uzbekistan is an immediate neighbor of Afghanistan, and over the past many centuries, we had very close humanitarian, cultural, economic ties with Afghan people. And that's why we don't think that the problem today is the problem of Afghan people. This is the problem of all of us in the region. And that's why we have to work together to bring peace and stability to Afghanistan, because this is in the common interest of the whole people of our common region.
Today marks Uzbekistan's 28 years of being member of the United Nations. During this time, tremendous work has been done in the development of the nation through numerous joint projects, conferences and agreements. To celebrate this anniversary, the Committee on the International Affairs and the Inter-Parliamentary Relations of the Legislative Chamber of Uzbek Parliament organized a round table. The UN plays an active role in coordinating and managing all global political processes, addressing regional conflicts and fighting poverty. During the roundtable, participants emphasized that Uzbekistan has become an active member of the organization over the years. The initiatives put forward by Uzbek President Shavkat Mirziyoyev during the 72nd session of the UN General Assembly are significant on a global scale.
Today's event was very helpful and informative. Currently, the UN and Uzbekistan are working on many new projects. Our cooperation lasts 28 years, and today we talked about the results and further actions. The main areas of our cooperation are security, peace and human rights. I would also like to note that soon the country will host a forum jointly with the UN on human rights.
US President Franklin Roosevelt coined the name United Nations. The term was used for the first time on January 1st, 1942 in the United Nations Declaration. Then, the organization included representatives of 26 states, and in 1945, the number of participating countries reached 50. At present, the figure has reached 193. Last week, Uzbekistan announced the sale of its largest assets. A massive draft tabled by the government aims to reduce state ownership in the economy. The discussion will run until March 12. Along with Uzbekistan Airways, Navai and Al-Malik MMC, the government plans to sell a part of its share in the following companies: 85% of share in mobile company UCell, 18.8% in the telecom company Uzbek Telecom, 25.4% in the National Postal Service Uzbekistan Pochtasi, 25% in the stock exchange Tashkent, 45% in pharmaceutical company Dore Darmon, 24% share set to be sold in the national oil and gas companies Uzneftegaz and Uztransgaz, 40% state share Uzexpocenter. The list also includes 11 banks, including the second and third largest in the country. In total, over 1,100 companies fully sold off by 2025. Another 550 will remain in the state's partial ownership. Imagine a home that takes care of you, the blending of technology and design that creates a smart home. This is the concept of newly created Energy Oybek, a joint venture between leading domestic developer Murad Building and the Kazakh BI Development Group.
The first day of spring marked the birthday of a new construction company in Tashkent, NRG, the joint venture of Murad Building and Kazakh BI Development Group. The residential complex, NRG Oybek, is the first project taken on by this collaboration. Representatives of various fields were invited to the Congress Hall to be introduced to the ambassadors of the future project. Architects, designers, entrepreneurs, artists, and anyone else interested to view the world from a different angle were invited to attend. Many technological innovations were showcased at the presentation. For aspiring photographers, there was a selfie mirror, a camera with 13 lenses, as well as an unusual project, which allows you to take photos and videos in virtual reality mode. There was something for all ages. For the adults, a showroom of a finished apartment with smart home technologies, and a friendly robot proved popular for the children. It was a fully interactive experience for the visitors, culminating in a long-awaited presentation. Murad Nazarov and Aydin Rahimbayev, as well as members of their team, presented all the key elements of NRG Oybek. The housing management, including smart home and smart repair technologies, based on the latest world technological developments, was highlighted. For example, the opening of gates and access doors, security systems, and optimization of utility costs, all will be controlled in the palm of your hand using mobile applications.
Которые им доверяют. Но сегодня мы будем говорить не о них.
The event ended with the mayor of Tashkent, Jahangir Otikhujayev, giving a symbolic press of the start button of the NRG Oybek project.
Ну, на мой взгляд,
we did our best to utilize our talent in full. We have so many ideas that need to be heard. The goal was to make the presentation as interesting as possible. Digital technology is a kind of thing that we can talk non-stop.
Мне понравилась публика,
I really enjoyed the audience. We've been waiting for this event for too long, and indeed, any big event is exciting. And for us, it was twice more exciting. This is our first big project in Uzbekistan. Even though with hundreds of projects, this project is really special. This is the first product to be implemented with Murad's team.
The Energy Uzbek complex is scheduled for completion in August 2021. Sales begin on March 2nd, 2020. Murad Building and BI Development Group have stated that this is only the beginning of their collaboration.
At the initiative of the National Central Bureau of Interpol of Uzbekistan, a delegation led by the head of Interpol in the United States, Wayne Salzgeber, arrived in Tashkent. Issues of the bilateral cooperation in the fight against international terrorism, cybercrime and human trafficking, strengthening relations between Uzbekistan and US law enforcement agencies were discussed.
Good morning, sir.
In a meeting on February 27 this year, the head of the Tashkent City Police Department gave a presentation on the creation of Safe City, a concept that involves significant reduction in crime in capital with other internal affairs agencies round-the-clock city-wide patrols. The visiting delegation got acquainted with the reforms implemented in the Ministry of Internal Affairs. The program includes a visit to the site of Samarkand and a meeting with the leadership of the Department of Internal Affairs of the region. The Embassy of Uzbekistan in Pakistan organized a fashion show in Islamabad on February 29th. Titled Ikat and Handicrafts of Uzbekistan, it featured the nation's flashiest folk fashions. Assisting our diplomat at the event was Pakistan's Iqra University. More details in our next report. Exhibits included national dresses, satin capes, adras and headdresses. Organizers said the purpose was to promote Uzbekistan's culture and history, as well as its tourism potential to the Pakistani audience. During the event, a video was screened to showcase all the unique opportunities the country has to offer. A wedding dress with a long train done in national colors was a statement piece at the end of the show. Held at the capital's Serena Hotel, the show saw some high-level guests. Fronted by Pakistan's First Lady Samina Alvi, the show was attended by various public officials, lawmakers and journalists. Among them was Nasar Janjua, the former National Security Advisor. He praised the Uzbek government's efforts to promote culture and art and said the country's national clothes convey a high level of spirituality and commitment to traditions. This is the second time an Uzbek fashion show has been held in Pakistan since the establishment of diplomatic ties between the two countries. Attendees expressed interest in the so-called ziyarat tourism, with routes waving through Islamic monuments of cultural importance. Peter Westerbacher, the creator of Angry Birds and the founder of the largest European innovation forum, Slush, arrived in Uzbekistan to run a masterclass. He spoke about the intricacies of creating games and promoting them on the world market. Underlying the opportunities and potential available in Uzbekistan, he announced his intention to open his office here in Uzbekistan.
The latest data are hardly encouraging. Numbers out Monday showed Asian factories took a beating in February over the coronavirus outbreak. A new Purchasing Managers Index saw Chinese factory activity post its sharpest contraction on record. Japan, Taiwan and South Korea were all badly hit too. Adding to the grim evidence, Hyundai Motor said Monday it had suffered its lowest monthly sales in a decade. And yet the day at first looked positive for stocks. Asian equities all ended the day with gains, with Europe initially following suit. That on hopes of global action to counter the virus's impact. Both the US Federal Reserve and the European Central Bank are now widely expected to cut rates. The Bank of Japan also said Monday it would take steps to stabilise markets. And French Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire promised concerted action by the G7 group of developed economies. The good mood didn't last, though. European shares were back in the red by lunchtime, with the Stoxx 600 down as much as 1.3%. Stocks shed close to 4% in Italy, the European country hardest hit by the coronavirus. Right now, traders are finding optimism hard to sustain.
After days of riots in India's capital, New Delhi, business owners ventured out for the first time on the weekend to survey the damage. The city's reeling after its worst bout of violence in decades. Aftab Khan sells bicycles. He lost his entire shop.
They dragged everything out of the shop and burnt it and stole some of the bicycles. They looted the rest and took them home.
Dozens of people were killed and hundreds more injured as Hindus and Muslims clashed last week. The violence broke out after weeks of protests against a new citizenship law. It makes the path to Indian citizenship easier for 6 religious groups from neighbouring countries, but not Muslims. Despite more police deployed on Sunday, many are still too scared to leave their homes.
We didn't sleep for 3 days. We stayed up all night guarding our children and daughters-in-law. I don't understand how this happened. These little children are getting desperate and impatient to go out of the house, but how do we take them out? So we have been confined to the house.
Schools were set ablaze and mobs rampaged the streets, damaging property last week. But a story of perseverance is emerging. For this principal, she said all efforts will be pulled out to conduct makeshift classrooms for scheduled exams next week.
They have done this, ransacked it in such a manner so that no one can open a school over here. They have made it a barren land, but we will not give up hope. We will open the school again.
These were the latest news for today. Goodbye.